Welcome to this edition of Cup Chat with Birding with Texas A&M Agri-Life Extension Service. Today, Dr. Frank interviews 4 of our birding buddies that will be joining us for Birding the Border 2021.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cup Chat. I'm back after a bit of a hiatus. I'm just here for the day because Emily is in Houston. I'm still on maternity leave otherwise, but Emily's at Houston with the livestock show, helping out the kids out there. So I get to interview 4 of our wonderful birding buddies today. So I don't exactly know how we're all arranged on the screen. So I'll have each of them wave at you as I introduce them. But first up, we have a Del Rio local, Miss Connie Hoke, lives right in Del Rio. So she's very familiar with Valverde County. Then we have Charmaine and Collins Ganson, who live in Lakey. And so they're also nearby. They do a lot of birding all around the area, and they've been here for a while. I'll let everybody kind of tell their birding stories and how long they've lived in the area. And then we have Terry Hibbitz, and he is out near Campwood. So for those of y'all that don't know, that is north of Uvalde. So it's Real County, right, Terry?
No, well,
okay.
Campwood is in Real County, but where I live is in Edwards.
Okay. So Terry is just kind of to the northeast of most of the areas that we will be in, but again, has been in the area and birded all around the area for quite a while. So thank you everybody for joining us today. And I will let y'all kind of introduce a little bit. If you'll first just tell us a little bit about your birding story and what is your experience in the areas that will be for Birding the Border. Connie, go ahead and kick us off.
Well, I grew up in Laredo, but then I moved to the coast near the Houston area, and I lived there for a lot of years and had a lot of access to a lot of public birding areas along the coast and stuff. And then 5-6 years ago, we moved to Del Rio, and we had property in Terrell County, which is the next county west. And so it was a little more limiting here because most of the property is private. So I tried to figure out who all I could learn to bird from, and then I ended up meeting up with Emily and when she became the county agent here. So it's been a lot of fun because I've gotten to bird on a lot of private properties.
So from Laredo and then the coast and where you are now, you've kind of hit some of the birding, you've lived in some major birding hotspots, but when did you actually start birding? How long have you been birding?
Well, my father and my brother were very much into nature and birding. My brother works for U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and so he kind of introduced me. My father passed away in 2006, and so 2007, my brother and I did the birding classic for the week-long birding, kind of in honor of my dad. So that's kind of when I really started doing major birding, I would say.
Thanks. All right, Charmaine, you want to go next? Tell us a little bit about how long you've been birding and your experience in the area.
Well, Collins and I lived along the Gulf Coast in Houston, Katy area. And when we got married in '94, we bought a piece of property with it was 1/3 of an acre in a subdivision out in Katy. And Katy was nothing back then. We were getting all sorts of weird birds in our yard that I didn't know what they were. So I ended up joining the Audubon Society, getting a field guide and binoculars, and we both started learning. And I still miss the Gulf Coast and all those birds sometimes. But we had a house here that we built in 2011, but we'd been coming here because of Nature Quest. I think, gosh, it's been a long time. 2002, I think we started going to Nature Quest. And loved the area. So eventually we moved out here, and like Connie, we've been out here about 5 years. And it's an area in Texas that you can get eastern and western birds. And that was one reason we liked living out here and you're close enough to the Rio Grande to get Mexican birds come up occasionally. So we've had, gosh, on our property, we've seen 159 species so far. And they just keep on coming. Just love it out here.
All right, Collins, are you a voluntary birder or were you conscripted into this whole thing?
Well, I started off just driving the truck, and then I became what they call an SOB, a spousal birder. And I've managed to accidentally migrate up to where now I'm a birding buddy. But yeah, I've enjoyed the trip, been doing it, all these years. And what I think I enjoy the most is learning the gist of birds as they fly or jump around in trees, and the calls. I like listening to the sounds they make and being able to identify birds that way. Because my eyes aren't as good as Charmaine. She had surgery where they put in new lenses where she can see colors that we can't. And so that's been an issue where she sees a bird 50 yards away through her binoculars and says, "Hey, look at the little yellow eyes in that thing." And I'm like, well, I can barely see a gray bird over there. So I have to go pretty much with the jizz of the bird and then the sounds that it makes sometimes. But my story is pretty mundane and boring, I guess.
No, but one of the things I love is that a lot of birding buddies, not birding buddies like for us, but people who go birding together, that's not the first time that I've heard where one person says, you know what, as I've gotten older, my eyesight's not so good, but the person I like to bird with, her hearing's not as good. And so we make a great pair. Or sometimes it's not even, whether or not you can hear or see, but just what your talent is. I definitely am much better by visual identification than by hearing. And so I like to bird with somebody who's better with hearing, and then you can make a really good partnership. So
yeah,
really
Charmaine hears the high pitch of the warblers that I cannot hear at all, no matter how close they are. And so she can hear them from quite a ways away. And there is a difference, I think, in basically men and women, what they hear, the frequencies. Because a lot of the women that we go with can hear what she does, and I don't at all. And my hearing is not bad, but
yeah, and even just I think what different people pick up on. Go ahead, Charmaine.
A lot of people don't realize it, but when you have cataract surgery, the new lenses allow you to see into the ultraviolet spectrum better. So you actually see more like a bird does. Birds can see a lot into the ultraviolet spectrum where they see more colors and more vivid colors. And when I had my first eye done, I was just, oh, wow, this is incredible. Do the second one quickly. And it makes a difference. I can actually see brightness and colors a lot better than he can. And that was one of the big advantages of cataract surgery.
That's cool. So if you're a birder and you've been told you need cataract surgery, go get it. You'll be better off.
Yes.
That's good.
And I needed cataract surgery because I birded so much and was out in the ultraviolet lights, which kind of makes you end up having cataracts. And mine ended up coming on within like 7 months. I was starting to go blind, and usually it takes years. And my doctor said, "Boy, he said, do you have, you stay out in the sun a lot?" I said, "Yeah, I kind of fry my eyes sometimes going out birding," but I've been doing it for so many years, and laying out in the sun didn't help.
Yeah. So if you're a birder, wear your sunglasses, wear your hat, but get cataract surgery if you need it.
I know. Well, you need a hat when you're out, because if you don't, it allows too much light into the binocular area.
Yeah, that's a fun tip, especially for beginners, that I think we've never mentioned before. Yeah, I don't know that we've ever mentioned that before, that hats are a great tool to have when you go birding, so that you don't have too much light coming in the top of your binoculars. Yeah, cool.
It does make a difference.
Mm-hmm. All right, Terry, you're up. How long have you been birding and odonating, if you want to talk about that?
I must be the old person in the bunch, but I started interested in wildlife and stuff all the way back when I was in grade school. But when I went to school at A&M, I got to take a course under Dr. Arnold. And he's still around, he's still kicking, but it was a really, really good experience being in his ornithology class at A&M and going on field trips and having us to do activities and research type of paper. And one of the first things I did was do a comparison of birds and where they stayed in the trees. Did they stay at the top or the middle or the bottom? And, so that kind of got me really interested. But and this has been, of course, that's been a long time ago. I graduated in '70, so you kind of get an idea. When the two boys came along, they triggered a lot more interest in getting out too, and we didn't really start keeping lists until we started going on vacations, and we'd list every bird we saw, but we were actually mostly chasing reptiles and amphibians, but we would always list the birds we saw on our trips. And then one time in Arizona, we southeastern Arizona, first time we ever went in '86, it just went wild. We saw all kinds of stuff, and that triggered keeping the list and looking at what we saw, and then coming back to Texas and going to places that I hadn't been before. But then started doing all kinds of stuff back around 2000. We moved here in 2005 after retiring, 34 years of teaching, and we really enjoy this part of the state, and it's just a melting pot for the east and the west and the north, like Charmaine was talking about, in the south, and not just birds, but all kinds of plants and animals. So anyway, we've been out here now for going on almost 16 years, and it's really been a joy, and really enjoyed getting involved with more activities and birding and anything else. But anyway.
Yeah, and I would say that pretty much everybody on the call this morning is a naturalist and has a lot of interest in things beyond just birds. But Terry is definitely kind of the king of the naturalists in this part of the world. I would say he does everything from birds to herps to odonates, so dragonflies and damselflies, and plants.
Yeah.
And so he's definitely our kind of go-to guy. If you're interested in some of the other nature in the area, definitely consider signing up for one of Terry's trips, or grab a piece of a plant and bring it back to him at the end of the day at Birding the Border. We'll see if he knows what it is. I'm gonna get you in trouble. No, we also one of our other buddies who we haven't gotten to have on yet, Patty Leslie Pastor, is also fantastic with plants. So we've got just some great overall naturalist knowledge, I'd say, with the group of people we have. And that's something that for Birding the Border, we want our birding buddies, to kind of just have some broad knowledge about the area, because we think that's a fun part of going out. It's not just ticking birds off a list, but also just enjoying where we are. So we'll kind of go backwards now. So Terry, you can take our next question first. What general tips do you have for birders about birding in a new location? If you have somebody who's coming here for Birding the Border from Houston and they've never been out to this part of the state before, what would you say that people should do to prepare, whether that's specifically for Birding the Border or just in general?
To prepare, I think they should really go after looking at eBird, iNaturalist, and things like this to look up what birds they want to look at and what they want to find, and kind of see where they've been found and how often they've been found. And because some birds, they say, I want to see this bird. Well, it may have only been seen 3 times in 2 years or 3 years. So it makes it more difficult. So have a little bit more open mind of what you want to see. I have a person in California that's been out a couple of times, and he said, I want to see this, I want to see this, I want to see this. I said, okay, we'll try. but just having a realization that enjoy what you're out doing, and enjoy and have enthusiasm with what you're doing out in the field. And if you're not enthused and enjoy what you're doing, then you're doing the wrong thing. So anyway, and I've been out with some birders that were so geared to see a certain bird. If they didn't see that certain bird, it was failure, and that's not what it's all about.
So that's good for everybody to know. On our sites that are listed on our website, we do have 4 or 5 target species listed, and we tried to keep those as kind of reasonable target species. So if there's something kind of specialty that you're interested in, then sometimes in the notes that were written by Brian, one of our guides, it'll say, it talks about maybe, one time this species was seen, or a couple times this has been seen. But our target species lists are supposed to be pretty, realistic. We, on a good regular day, we'll probably see those species. So for folks who are interested in kind of looking down, making a target species list ahead of time, you can check those out too on the website. So Collins, how about you? Especially from kind of, you're probably the most, I don't want to say that you're a beginner, but of this group, you're maybe our newest to birding. What are your tips for if you're going to a new location? What do you do?
For coming out here specifically, bring water with you.
Good one.
Because so many times it gets, the humidity gets so low out here. And yesterday I was coughing just being outside a few minutes because it was so low. And it feels like your mouth just dries out. And if you're out hiking, and especially in an area you're unfamiliar with, you're going to need water. But other than that, be prepared to see birds you don't see if this is your first time out here, because it's amazing how the birds will come just across the Rio Grande and just across, and that's it. And then some of them will come all the way from California maybe or whatever. But this is, like Terry was saying, this is right on the divide from eastern and western birds. And so you can see anything. And one of my birds I'd like to see on our trip in the spring would be quail, because all my life, I've never seen many quail at all. So to see the different types of quail in this area would be big for me. But that's pretty much my tips.
Yeah, and I think if I remember right, because I know you're helping with our photography track, and there's you'll be at Kickapoo Cavern State Park one day, and they have seen Montezumas out there, but it's very, very rare. Yeah. I know the ranch across the way, they've seen them, but hopefully we can scrounge up some bobwhites and scaled quail for you too, because those are definitely good ones. I will add on too, I think for beginner birders, Collins makes a really good point of, if you know, and this tying into what Terry said, if you know what's commonly in the area and learn those really well, kind of learn those things that you can expect to see, then if you see something that's different, that can kind of clue you into, that might be, that's the thing that I need to look up, or that might be something less common to see. So definitely look up the things that are common in the area you're going, and learn those few, so that you don't feel like you have to learn everything that might possibly show up out there.
That's a great thing for me about going with Charmaine, who knows a lot, is I'll see a bird and I'll say, my mind instantly, I'll say that bird doesn't have the jizz that I've ever seen with that size of bird and maybe that color of bird. And so I'll just say, hey, I see a bird that I don't know what it is. And so being a birding buddy, I should probably help that person who says that. So hopefully I can.
Yes. All right. And it looks like, by the way, it looks like you're the only one of us staying hydrated right now. You have a really pretty mug. I didn't bring up on Cup Chat. I don't know if anybody else has cups with them, but I like it.
It is a Cup Chat, right?
It is. Okay. No. Oh, yep. Connie and Terry are there too. Okay. I take it back. I'm the only cupless person. Okay. Charmaine's has birds. Connie, what does yours have on it?
Hummingbirds. I don't know if you can.
Oh, those are pretty. Yeah, I like those. Terry, what's yours got?
It's just plain cup.
That works.
And there's no nasty coffee in there.
Oh, I didn't realize you're a tea drinker like I am.
Well, it's spice tea or apple cider,
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good for all our birders to know for Birding the Border. We will have a coffee bar before you go out each morning, but there will also be tea there, because I'm primarily a tea drinker, not a coffee drinker. So we want to make sure we include all the different beverage preferences for the morning. So, all right, Charmaine, how about you? What tips do you have for birding in a new location?
Well, a lot of times if I'm going to a new area, I go to eBird and check the hot spots out for that area. And then on those hot spots, when you get on that, it'll list, which is great, all the birds seen. And so you will know now from the hot spots what most birds are going to be out there. The rarities are rarities. They're going to pop up occasionally, and there's nothing you can do about that to really pre-plan, but unless you know that there's one out there and you go hunt for it. But most of the time, I just go to eBirds hotspots and look at and see on that hotspot what birds are being seen all the time, and then study those birds. Or like when we went to Colorado, bought a book on Colorado birds and studied which ones would be in the area we were going to, and it was really helpful because you don't know all the birds, unless you're really studying them all the time throughout North America. So when you're going to someplace different, we're used to our birds here. In North America, there's different birds, different places, and those eBirds really a big help. So is iNaturalist, they both are. But I primarily grew up with eBird, and so I use it the most. But someone like Terry, who's always posting on iNaturalist, or Trip, other people do, and some people post more on iNaturalist, and they're more comfortable there than they are eBird. But the main thing down here in South Texas, like Colin says, is make sure you're prepared power bars and water. And I would always recommend everybody carry a first aid kit in their car anyway, just in case, because out here in the middle of nowhere, you're in the city real quick, unlike a lot of other places you're birding. So always be prepared wherever you're going new.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. For those who are joining us for Birding the Border, we like to keep everybody well fed. And so we always have snacks, we always have water, and every car has a first aid kit. Yeah, Terry knows all about that. Lots of good food. But especially if you're planning trips before and after, and you're not used to the area, and you want to go do a side trip or something in the afternoon, or or just on your way out here, make sure that you are prepared, because it definitely can be a little bit far, not always good cell service. So if you're with us, we've got you pretty well taken care of, but make sure that you are, prepared for anywhere else you might go. Before we jump to Connie, I'm going to share my screen real quick. I was looking at, I wanted to show everybody on eBird, just in case you haven't used eBird, to show what Charmaine is talking about. So what I did is I just kind of zoomed in on an area of Del Rio. Let me zoom out real quick. There's two different ways you can do hotspots. You can either search up here for a hotspot name. So if I wanted to look up Amistad National Recreation Area, which is what I had pulled up, I can type it in, and then it shows everything that can be included there. Or you can zoom in and you see we've got all these little icons showing the different hotspots. The different colors tell you how many species have been seen there. So you can see in this little legend over here on the bottom right of my screen, when it gets more towards those warm colors, that indicates more species seen, and those cooler colors are fewer species. So let me zoom in on a pretty cool area over here, especially because this trip still has a lot of space for people to sign up, and that surprises me. If you look at this really nice dark orange right here, this is Fort Clark Springs, and it does say limited access, and we have access to some of those limited places, so come join us. 251 species total have been seen there. But something else you can do is if you click here on bar charts, Charmaine was talking about seeing the species, that are kind of most common there. You can click here where it says change date. And you can specify, okay, if I'm going for Birding the Border, I'm going to be there. It's kind of April wrapping into May. So let's specify that we've got just April to May birds, and then hit continue. And now it will show you these bar charts just for species that have been seen in that date range. So you see we're still at 204 species. So there's still a ton that are here, even when we limit down to those dates. This really is like our peak time of year. And then these bar charts are showing you how often those have been seen. So black-bellied whistling ducks, pretty much almost guaranteed to see those at Fort Clark Springs, whereas it looks like one time or a few times Canada geese have shown up. So don't expect that you'll see Canada geese, while you're at Fort Clark Springs. Then you can scroll down through this list. Oh man, if I want to see, white-winged doves, mourning doves, those are almost for sure. But even look, hey, yellow-billed cuckoo, there's a decent chance that those will be around, and if we're in the right area, that we could see one of those. So I just wanted to share that real quick for those who might not be familiar with eBird. All right, Connie, what have you got for us as the person who lives in Del Rio? What do you recommend for the folks who are coming out here?
Well, like everybody else has mentioned, eBird is a great tool to be able to see. One other thing is look through your bird books that you normally use, because the birds you want to look at may be only here in the wintertime and you're not going to see them in May. So you kind of have to, but just be open to what you see, like Terry said, because you never know what, I mean, this year has been a weird year for birds. It's just been crazy, but there's a lot of nice birds. I'm going to be doing the beginner track. So one day we're going to be out in the deserty kind of area at Zuberbuehler Ranch. And then another day we're going to be here in town at places there's ponds and water. And then another day we're going to be out over in Kinney County at Dobbs Run, I think. And that's a whole different area. So there's a lot of different opportunities for different birds at every site we're going to be doing on the beginner track. So
yeah, I think that's definitely how we design the beginner track, is to hit that whole spectrum of things. And so you will have really awesome buddy and a really awesome guide with you if you're on that beginner track, because I know that can seem overwhelming when you're like, there's 200 species potentially in an area. That's a lot of different species to see, but we'll have you covered as far as learning those species as you go along. So and so Connie reminded me real quick just to mention, so Connie is on the helping with the beginner track. Charmaine is going to be at Devils River State Natural Area on one day below the dam. So that Amistad National Recreation Area that I showed below the dam. Actually, I think I'll have to check eBird. There is a hot spot there. It doesn't show as many species, but that's because it's very restricted to get down there. So it's not like it's birded all the time. But you're literally on the rivers looking into Mexico. So you can definitely see species that are more specific to Mexico. And then Charmaine.
Don't realize that,
go ahead.
Sorry.
A
lot of people don't realize since 911, most of the dams have been restricted.
That's a good point.
And
yes.
That's the reason why.
Yeah, it's very strict as to who can get down below the dam. Yeah. And then the last day Charmaine will be on Sunday, Charmaine will be at the duck pond, which is one of the ones that Connie is at as well. So if the duck pond sounds interesting to you, but you're not in the beginner track, you can still get over to the duck pond. And then, like I mentioned, Collins is going to be with our photographer, Laura. And so if you're interested in the photography track, they'll be at Kickapoo Caverns State Park one day, McKenna Ranch another day. And then where are you guys your last day? Transition Ranch, that's right, a very photography specific ranch on Saturday. And then Terry is going to be at Dobbs Run, which is the one that Connie just mentioned. So another one that you can go on as a beginner or not as a beginner. And that's a really special hill country place. Terry will be along Tularosa Road, which is really neat. It's very, it's kind of weird to think about just birding along a road, but it is the most peaceful stretch of road that I've ever been on. And just a very interesting, like literally transitioning on that drive up into the hill country to see some unique species. So that's definitely a fun one. And then at McKenna Ranch as well. So that McKenna Ranch is one that you can go on with a photography focus or just as a regular trip. And so Terry will be out there, and that's a little bit drier. That's out towards Devils River State Natural Area, but you're not quite there. It's a little bit drier and scrubbier. So, all right. Well, with just kind of wrapping everybody up, I'm gonna let Colin start because he already mentioned this. But you mentioned your target species that you want to see more quail. So I wanted our buddies to share what you're most excited about for birding the border, including any target species that you personally have. So Collins wants to see quail, and what else are you most excited about to be joining us?
I guess the most excited about just getting out with people after a year of isolation, but and hopefully safely, because we've had our vaccinations now, and hopefully others have as well. But and social distancing and all that stuff will be practiced. But I think just that one rarity that may come across the river or whatever from Mexico or from the West, a bird that I don't normally see. That would be nice. Just anything along those lines. Hopefully no house sparrows. But that's pretty much it. Just getting out. I love hiking, especially the areas. I'm glad I'm going to Kickapoo because that's a great place to hike. And especially with a photographer, hopefully I'll learn something about taking a decent picture. So I'm kind of looking forward to the whole photography thing now.
Yeah, I think that'll be fun. We're going to give you a leg up on Charmaine. You're going to get some time with a professional photographer there. Good mention about getting to be together with everybody. There are some kind of our current guidelines related to COVID are on our website. We will definitely keep all of our participants informed. All of our trips were initially set at a little bit higher numbers, but they're all capped at 10 now. So, and we've got 2 vehicles going to each location. So we'll spread y'all out in cars, spread out as far as limiting the number of people that are around in any particular place. And so hopefully that if anybody has questions about kind of our COVID regulations, feel free to let us know. But we've definitely been trying to plan it so that it can be as safe as possible, but still bring everybody together. Because I know we're all excited to see other people and get out and bird and meet new people. So. All right, Charmaine, what's your target species?
All of them.
All of them.
I just enjoy walking around and seeing any bird. Anybody who birds with me knows I get excited just if a bird appears. And I've seen so many unusual species this winter because of the fires and the drought in all of the western part of the nation. It's driven them to Texas, and like Anna's hummingbird is really rare, but this winter everybody had Anna's hummingbirds at their feeders, which is highly unusual. So most of the birds that I really wanted to see, I've been seeing. I mean, I had a western bluebird in my backyard, and everybody around here seen mountain bluebirds and westerns in flocks, which you normally don't see. And this spring, it's going to be very interesting to see what shows up. And like Colin said, that rarity or the uncommon birds, because that drought and those fires that we had over there should drive some other birds hopefully this way, because if they've already been there and they've left and migrated down south for the winter, now coming back, they're going to know that area might not be so good. So we may end up with some really good birds. I think we will. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is just seeing everything.
We've had some pretty incredible and unusual weather events, because something else that's definitely impacted us is the winter that we had a couple of weeks ago. And, there's been some concern as far as, plants that were damaged by that. But, speaking as someone who grew up where it snows, the benefit of the snow is you get that really good moisture. And man, we were hurting for that moisture out in this part of the world. And so there were definitely some plants that were negatively affected, but getting that moisture to really soak in the ground, and hopefully it continues to rain. We'll see, how kind of the rest of the spring goes, but right now we're getting a really nice green up, and hopefully some of that moisture will help. We definitely needed that. So hopefully that'll help too with some of our supporting our migrating species that are going through. So, all right, Terry, what are you most excited for? And do you have any target species?
I don't have any particularly target species. I'm kind of like Charmaine. I like all the birds. I get thrilled just seeing a cardinal even. But one of the things that I'm really excited about, though, is always meeting new people. During that Christmas bird count, you put me with a couple of new people that husband and wife that live north of Lakey. And they were so excited about getting involved and seeing things. And that to me is worth everything, is seeing people that get excited and they're not worried about what they see. They're just so excited to get out and bird and look at what they can see and what they can find. And that, and one more comment, you can't see that very well, but that is a app on my phone for birds. And nowadays carrying a book, a field guide, is not so much fun. And these new apps, all these apps on these phones are fantastic. And of course, they got sounds and everything with them. And so be sure if you tell individuals, that's a suggestion for people to, get the app on their phones, and that way they can just carry their phone with them and punch it in, and they can find out what's there, and also see what they hear. When I do birding surveys, it's so important. I hear something new and I say, okay, I think that's got to be this. So I go play it right quick. Yep, that's what it is. So anyway, birding apps are really good. But just being excited, that's the thing I'd like to see anyway.
Yeah, that's a good tip for anybody who's registered for Birding the Border. And if you're a new birder and you don't already have your favorite app, go download some right now. And most of them are free, and go play around with them. And kind of to jump back to something Charmaine said, I really love that you mentioned that your birding story started when y'all were in Katy. And yes, it was when it was a much less developed, but it means you don't have to be somewhere with a bunch of land. Charmaine and Collins mentioned they've got property in Lakey, and Terry's out here in Campwood, with space, and Connie's got her Terrell County, but you don't have to have all of that land to enjoy birding. No. You can just be in your backyard in suburban Houston. And so grab an app, download one, download a bunch of free ones. You can always delete them, and find one that you like and play with it, so that you're comfortable using that app once you get out here to somewhere new. So, all right, Connie, wrap us up. You live here all the time. So what are you excited about that might not normally see?
Well, I'm more excited too about going to Kinney County and seeing hopefully golden cheek warblers and the black-tap vireos, because those aren't species that I normally see here in Del Rio, but we'll be going to different habitats. So it'll be interesting, like Charmaine said, to see what kind of birds we see this year that we haven't seen because of the changes in everything that's been going on. I did the Christmas bird count at Seminole Canyon, and I got to see juncos. I hadn't seen juncos here since I've been here. So that was kind of cool. So
yeah, that was one you got to see this year too, right, Charmaine? Was junco, you have juncos in your backyard, right?
We had 4 different subspecies show up in our yard this year. I'm just stunned at it, pink-sided, which is really rare. And Terry, who doesn't live that far, also had a lot of different juncos, Oregon, slate-colored, and one that I have had 4 different opinions on. So nobody is quite sure what that junco is. So I just put it down as a slate colored, or dark-eyed junco. Someone thought it might be a cis montanus, which is kind of rare, but they also interbreed. So you can have hybrids that you just don't know what it is. But that was interesting. That was fun this year, was getting the different juncos to show up in the backyard that you'd never get. And because of the Western fires and everything, they're driven this way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lots of exciting stuff, and who knows what exactly will show up. Well, thank you to the 4 of you so much for coming out with us this morning. Hopefully for those of you who are watching, if you're already registered for Birding the Border, hopefully you are excited to meet some of the buddies. They're just as valuable to us as our guides are. They're really a lot of our local knowledge, and they're going to help keep everybody on track, and just be an extra set of eyes and ears out on your trips as somebody that can help you, with identification. Connie?
Yeah, I just want to say real quick to people who are registered, Emily and Maureen put on a great event, and the food is great, and everybody's friendly, and it's a chance to get to meet new people, and it's a lot of fun.
Thank you. Yeah, we definitely try to have a lot of fun with it. And yes, definitely feed you well, as Terry agreed. Also, he got that firsthand a couple of years ago. But yeah, so if you have not registered yet, there are still spots. We do have several trips that are full already. The beginner track is already full. Actually, I think below the dam is already full. Yep, I was kind of pushing that one, but that one's already full up. There's a few spots on Friday and Saturday for Devil's River State Natural Area, which is a highly coveted one.
That is a good one.
That is a good one. Some really cool species. We don't know yet if we're going to get to go to Dolan Falls or not, but that's still a hopeful there. And then we have spaces, like I mentioned, Fort Clark Springs is one. We have lots of space. I don't know why, because to me, that is one of my favorite places. So if you haven't signed up, I highly recommend that one because there's so much cool stuff out there. And there are some places that are restricted there. You can't just get out there anytime. So yeah, definitely still some spots. So join us and come experience. As you can see, we have some really passionate birding buddies for y'all to come bird with. So thanks so much, guys. And with that, we'll sign off, and Emily will be back to see y'all next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Bye.
Thanks.